All right. Hey, welcome to Growth Mindset of a Champion podcast on YouTube. I am really blessed tonight. And back in 2020, I was blessed to be able to do an anchor podcast. It was strictly an audio podcast with the legend Dick Gould, Stanford University men's tennis coach for 38 years, and he was at the Stanford University. Dick, I'm gonna age you a little bit, but I think it was like 52 years, right, brother? Something like that. I mean, you were there a
I,
long
I,
time.
I coached 38, but then when I retired,
Right.
I went into director of tennis, and I was there for 14, so 52 years old.
52 years. I mean, that is incredible. The legacy. Now, you did say in your book, I'm going to get into that, that you were the most tenured there longer than anyone in the history of Stanford University, I guess, in sports or anything, right? I mean, is
There,
that
well, in the athletic department, yes, there was a groundsperson who had been there 51 years, I believe.
okay?
But he was still there. He left, I think, while I was still in school, but I never
Okay.
met him. He was right at his little office was right across the street
Well,
from the
you and the
tennis.
groundskeeper almost, I mean, that's you. You guys saw a lot of sunrises and a lot of sunsets there at Stanford University for a half a century there. That's pretty incredible, my friend.
Well, you got to be a groundskeeper. You got to pick up the papers. No one else is going to do it. The trash. I
Right.
was I was a groundsman.
Oh, that's awesome. So you did, I mean, you did a little bit of everything. So Dick, I'm just gonna show the audience the book, here, and I know you've had an update to the book as well, recently. Do you have your
Here's the
update?
update.
There you go. So he's got an updated version of it. He held that up there as well. So make sure you get the updated version where he's got some edits in there. We're just letting the audience know we're excited about this book. Dick, I read it. I read, through it and made some notes, and it just blew me away. All the work you put into this, and not only you put work into it, you had your team actually put some work into this. And let's just talk a little bit about your passion for Stanford University tennis and the 17 NCAA Division One men's tennis championships that you were able to do that when you got after your first one. It was in a 28-year period. You got 17, right?
Yes.
You and your team had basically a dynasty going on there, and that has not been passed to this day, correct? That's still the winningest program in the history of Division One tennis.
I think so. Yes.
Okay. Well, that's something to be very proud of. But Dick, when people get into this book, Anatomy of a Champion, building and sustaining success in sport, business, and life, as shared by 166 CEOs, entrepreneurs, coaches, and world champions by Dick Gould with Tom, is it Tropey or Trope?
Tim Noonan was one of my players.
Oh, Tim Noonan. So there you go.
Uh-huh.
I didn't want to butcher anything. So,
I
so one of your players helped put this together with you, which is fascinating. And Dick, the thing that jumped out at me, as shared by 166 CEOs, entrepreneurs, coaches, and world champions. Dick, you're talking about your players where it helped put this book together.
didn't start out to write a book.
Right.
A friend of mine was the CEO of a company called Maxim Integrated Circuits, one of the largest Silicon Valley ventures at the time, and he played baseball at UCLA, and he was in the Hall of Fame down there. And
Right.
we worked together, starting an intercity program here that one of my players, an idea one of my former players had for a local area that was actually in early 80s. It was the homicide capital of the world and per capita of the United States, excuse me, per capita. And it wasn't a really pleasant place, a lot of drugs and problems. And right next door to it, where we live, Palo Alto, East Palo Alto. And so he and I kind of started this program out with my former player, Jeff Ahrens. And so we got to be pretty good friends. And he would work out a little bit at Stanford on the track, which is right next to the tennis courts. And I'd walk across the track to get to my office. So I'd regularly see him. And one day he asked me about halfway through my coaching tenure, he said, "Well, Dick, how do you win so many championships?" I said, "Jack, I have the best players." It's a pretty easy answer. And he said, "No, it's a little bit more than that." And it hit me again a few years later when Matt Knoll, a Baylor coach, who did a really nice job there, won a national championship himself, a team we'd never beat in my coaching career. He asked me, he said, "Well, how do you sustain the success? How do you win so many?" And those two questions really stumped me. And I stood by my answer to have the best players. Well, time went on, and I got through my coaching career, and I was working as director of tennis. I still didn't have time to write a book and didn't intend to. But when I retired from Stanford in 1952, or 19, excuse me, after 52 years, in 2018, I said, well, maybe I can take time now and try to answer Jack's question. I sat down
Right.
and thought about it and thought about it. Vacations, I'd think about it. And I really couldn't come up with a better answer. We did have the best players. And Jack's his response to me was, a lot of people have great players and never win. And that bugged me a little bit too. I couldn't figure out a
Right.
distinguishing factor
Yeah.
there. So I got thinking, well, what if I asked my players what they thought?
Right.
Maybe I can get some kind of an answer from them. What was our secret sauce, so to speak? So I jumped up about 20 questions, ended up 21 questions ended up.
Mm-hmm.
And they're all essay tape questions. I had 200 players still alive at that time,
Mm-hmm.
and 83% of them, 166 of them, responded. And it took about probably a good 2 hours to fill out this questionnaire, and almost all of them filled out the whole questionnaire. Some of them were there before we started winning, so some of the questions weren't relevant to them. So they couldn't take time, obviously, to answer the questions that weren't relevant.
Right.
But still, it was a tremendous response. And
It was. Yeah.
I was
Right.
working, and I had another office, and I went from Stanford to downtown Palo Alto, where I had an office. I was working for a nonprofit, I still am, that develops concussion education, and for coaches and parents and kids, young kids from little league on up to uh, professional athletes, frankly.
Mm-hmm.
And I had an office here with four walls, and I started clipping out organizing these thoughts that players had. And I started at the top with a heading of the question and went down chronologically with these players' answers. And so I would go all the way down to the floor, maybe half the next column as well, with the answers to one question. And so I got them all up there, and I started to think, well, now what am I going to do with these things? They're all
Right.
early in the book. It's posted in my office, and these walls. It's amazing.
I love the way you had a thought process to engage your entire teams, and you came up with the idea of the questionnaire, 21 questions. You got feedback from those questions, and then you chronicalized them to be able to break it down to
Well,
make it
then I looked at this
find
time.
everything.
Oh my gosh, there's a lot of information here. How am I going to organize it? Other than
Right.
the fact it's chronological big deal, and it's by topic. And I thought, well, maybe it's something that could fit into a book.
Right.
And maybe if I rearrange this a little bit, I can set up some chapters that I can rearrange all these little quotes in. And so that took a long time. I was moving tape off and taping up again, and
Oh, yes.
and so it was, and so this took a long time by itself. And I have a guy who's going to help me with the book, who had written a book with Bill Walsh,
Okay.
a football coach, and with John Wooden, a couple of books with John Wooden, the basketball coach, and he wanted to help me with one. And it took me so long to get going, but a year or two of just organizing these thoughts,
Right.
that by that time he'd gone on to other things, and I wanted to have someone who knew what they're doing to help me a little bit. So one of my former players, he played on my second championship team in 1974 and was a top 150 player in the world, was a writer. And he's written about 35 books. He's back in North Carolina. His name is Tim Noonan.
Yes.
And he also has done a little bit of publishing. And so he said, well, Dick, maybe I told him what I was doing. And he said, well, I'd love to let it be involved in this, love to help you. So he kind of came in to advise me in things. And whereas I would write it, he would review it and say, well, maybe you should change this a little bit or think about this. And so he helped me throughout the process, which I really appreciate. He really got into it himself. It was fascinating to
That's
watch him
just so
get into
cool,
it, because he's
man.
one
I
of those
mean,
guys that answers 166.
well, Dick, I think you're onto something here. You see a lot of these books that are written, self-help, motivation. And to me, the thread in this book is the players, the consistency I'm seeing in here, the passion they had to play, their energy, their enthusiasm, how they push themselves and they push the team, and the spirit of the team, the integrity of the team. That's all going to come out in this book. And when you're in the real world in a business, I've been doing business, in the business world. I've been in engineering, marketing. I'm in management, sales. I'm all over. I've got I'm not like the biggest guy with connections, but I've got a few thousand on LinkedIn. And the thing is, it's just Dick. I mean, I could almost do a seminar on this book for some of the top corporations in the country with these insights.
You know,
And
I think
it would save them money on not having as much turnover, right? Having people that want to stay on the team, people that are inspired to be on the team. I mean, your book just exudes all that. And I think in the real world, sometimes we want it quick. We talked about this before we started and turned this on to tape it. At the end of the day, it's everybody wants it now. And we'll get into this, but when you go through the book and you talk about on the farm, for example, the secret sauce, rather, you went through the secret sauce, how you set the book up, which I thought was fascinating. Early years on the farm, when you got in there, right, you had to literally go in there and the players looked at you like, who's this guy? He wants to win it all, and they were like, you're like, well, yeah, is there anything wrong? We want to win it all, but they didn't have the same mindset you did. And you had not recruited all those guys when you got there. You had to kind of build that culture, right? Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, we did. Let me backtrack just a
Yep.
second, because I think this is important. I think,
Okay.
it's a book using tennis as an example, but this is not a book about tennis per se.
Exactly.
And it's not not intended to be a book about me. It's not a history of
No.
Stanford tennis.
When I say this about your championships, you're always just, and I get it, but it's just so cool to be here with you. But your spirit in this book is to help other people, and businesses and everything
Well,
else.
yeah, that's the epigraph, turned out to be the epigraph of the book.
Yeah.
Coaching, which you do, I do,
Right.
which a parent does in their
Yeah.
family, which someone does in a nonprofit or in a friends group they work in. There's always someone who's coaching. So they're
Coaching.
all of us are coaching in some sense of the word.
Absolutely.
And the idea of this is coaching in any arena, anything,
Yes. Any
family
arena.
or your business or whatever it
Yeah.
might be, is really a sacred responsibility, because what you're doing by example
Yeah.
is being taught to other people, good or bad. And so I think that's why it's so sacred. And it really becomes, and that's why I like coaching so much, teaching my team, because it's the epitome of that. It's
Didn't
right
you say
there.
it right here, in your epigraph? Coaching in any arena is a sacred responsibility, Dick Gould. And that's really the heart of the book,
And it's not just a tennis book,
Yeah.
or it's not just about leadership.
Yeah.
Well, it is about leadership, but
Yeah.
leadership is at any level,
Yeah,
whether we
it
like
sure
it or
is.
not. The kids have it at their own level. Our parents had it. We have it in our whatever we do in life, in our work business or otherwise, family. And
And it could be someone who's a team contributor can read this book and bring more value to the teams. I mean,
I think my guys really enjoyed reading
yeah, I
it.
mean, you could be an
I
individual
got back
contributor,
from,
or you can be a
and
coach and
yeah.
take this to your team. I just see how you can get better and grow through this book. The principles are that in this book,
Well, I sure grew a lot in this thing, because I started out by the seat of my pants. I played at Stanford and I wasn't
Right.
great.
I remember.
I grew up on a farm, and I was always working at the farm in the summer, so I couldn't play tournaments. I didn't even want to play tennis. My mom said, well, you're going to take a tennis lesson. I'm 11 years old. I said, tennis, the little white shorts in I'm farming country. Are you kidding me? And they said, yeah, if you want to ride your horse, you're going to. So
Right.
this summer, so I took a tennis lesson. Well,
Wow.
the guy I had was a really dynamic teacher. It was a private lesson. His name was Harold Chafee, and his daughter Nancy Chafee was a world-class women's player, and she married Ralph Kiner, the baseball player.
Okay.
But Chafe, when he taught me that first lesson, everything he did, he knew I didn't want to be there, and everything he did was to make it correlated to another sport. Things like you step into the punch like Rocky Marciano, step into the hit as Rocky Marciano steps in the punch.
That's awesome.
You
Passion behind
watch
it.
the ball.
Yep. Yep.
Ralph Kiner watched it come out of the pitcher's
Yep.
hand, and all of a sudden I'm thinking, wow, this sport has something. And
Oh,
I
yeah.
couldn't couldn't wait to get out and try to hit it against the ball against the damn garage.
Yeah, he was enthusiastic, and he gave you.
It was
He tried
insane.
to he tried to open your mindset up to the possibilities with tennis, didn't he?
Yeah, he did, and it taught me a big lesson. It's that if you think back to teachers we all had as individuals, probably the ones that stick with us the most were the ones that who were really excited about their subject matter.
Yeah,
And I think my crowning achievement, I was only about 20 years old at the time. My coach at Stanford had me go out in the summers. One summer I worked for him, and he couldn't leave his club job to go out and teach in the private homes in the area. So he asked me if I would do that for him. I said, sure. So I was teaching this little gal at the end of summer. Folks signed up for 4 lessons, and she was really little, like 7 years old, with a heavy wood racket. The rack was bigger than she would. She could hardly hold it. In those days, it was still pretty much one-handed game. And I taught her a beautiful, beautiful forehand swing, but she couldn't hit the ball.
yeah.
And finally, it happened to be the last lesson of summer, and she didn't live in this house, but I remember this so vividly. She connected with the ball, and I was trying to think in all these lessons, gosh, your hair looks so nice today.
Right.
What kind of shoes are those? Those fast ones? Or I love that dress outfit on you. Just anything I could to make her feel good, because
Right.
she surely wasn't going to feel good trying to hit a tennis ball.
Exactly.
But she finally did, and she connected. It was a beautiful hit. And I started laughing,
Right.
clapping and smiling and applauding her. And she started jumping up and down and up and down. And all of a sudden, midair, she froze. And she looked down at the ground beneath her, and a little puddle of water was forming. She was so excited, she couldn't contain herself.
Oh, is that right? What about
She looked back up at me. She looked down at the ground. She went in the house, out the front door. I never saw her again to this day. No one's ever introduced herself to me as that gal.
Well,
But I figured at that point, I lived up to I did.
You're a very enthusiastic coach and teacher. Yeah, well, no doubt about it. I know, the book's got so many great things in here in regards to just the seeds that were planted in the program and the things that you did and the way, the players responded, and, just building that unity and that winning attitude. And, you kept building it, right? And you got
I couldn't write a book like this if I tried. When I started, I didn't have a coaching philosophy. I really felt that Stanford could be more than it was when I was a student athlete there and playing on the team. By my last year, I was number 3 in the team, and the 2 guys ahead of me were world-class players. So I improved a lot there, being able to play every day. And I could see we had great weather. We had a great social economic base here. There was no reason why we couldn't take that next step. My coach was there, I think, since World War II. We never, including when my coach was there for 16 years, we never finished out of the top 10 in the country. So I said, well, this is not that hard. And we were averaging about 6 or 7. We were once in a while 3 or 4, but we were about 6 or 7 in the country each year on the average.
Right.
But I thought we could do better than that. But the powers were SC, UCLA, and Miami, the good weather sports areas. Weren't a lot of indoor courts when I started, just getting started with the indoor court building. And so it really was a good weather sport in those places. And there weren't that many foreigners. Some schools had quite a few foreigners on the teams, but most of them didn't have very many.
Well, I noticed you've had several players go through there early. Roscoe Tanner, I noticed you got him.
Yeah.
That was a really interesting story, how, he was going to go to another school, and then he made a decision. It was Tennessee, I believe. And he made a decision that he had a second thought and gave you guys a call and asked if he still had an opportunity. And they managed to find a room that he could stay in, and then you were able to get him on the team. And we all know, he was a top 4 player in the world at the ATP level. So he was some kind of player. I actually he's a real nice fellow. I did
yes.
Gary Plock hooked me up with him, and I was able to do an anchor call with him. And he just, he was hitting 140 with wood, serves.
He was.
And you
I wish I could say I taught it to him. I guess I best say I didn't screw him up with it.
So that was a big boost to get him in there.
It really was. That was my first. I had one player just before that, Stanley Passarell, the brother of Charlie Passarell, played for UCLA.
Okay.
And Stanley came in on my first full scholarship, and that kind of started the program. And I had a couple of near misses with some great players, and it was frustrating, but finally I got Roscoe. Roscoe was admitted to Stanford in April
Mhm.
when our admissions people let the students know whether they're admitted or not, and then signed a conference letter of intent to Tennessee, but signed a conference letter of intent to Tennessee. That
Right,
was not binding nationally at the time for the national letter of intent.
right,
So technically, he couldn't go anywhere in the South in that conference, but he still could come anywhere else. About halfway through the summer, he came out to a National Junior Davis Cup camp, loved it. About halfway through the summer, he had been admitted to Stanford. Told him in May when the deadline was due that he was not going to come. He's going to Tennessee, but then changed his mind in the middle of summer. I'd stopped recruiting him completely
right.
and said, "Coach, can I still get into Stanford?" And I said, "Well, I don't know. He turned him down. Let me see what I can find out." I literally crawled on my hands and knees
Right. You
in
said
his
that
office,
in the book. I
saying,
read that.
saying, "Guys, I need a break. You got to give me help. You admitted this guy. Some way we got to find room for him in his
Right.
class because this is a program turner."
Yep.
And sure enough, Roscoe had the greatest attitude ever. And he came in and he was so charismatic. People loved to watch him play.
Oh, yeah.
And Stanford was not winning in any sport at the time. We finally had just started in 73, 72, right at 72, early 70, started to go to the Rose Bowl a couple of times. But the football program, the tennis program started to build about the same time. And Stanford was starved for winning in any sport.
Right.
And so we started to do pretty well in tennis with Roscoe. And he changed the whole attitude of the
Mhm.
team just by his singular presence.
When you
And
get the players in at that caliber, I mean, everybody has an energy about them. The student body, the fans coming to the game. I
yes,
mean, then all of a sudden, another good player decides they want to come play with them, and then you just kind of, had through a lot of the program building and growing and
we had a lot of disappointments. My first year, I said we'd never been on the top 10. My first year of coaching, I mean, I told my boss who hired me, my AD, I said, "I think we can win a national championship." He looked at me, "Oh, yeah, sure, a fine coach, good. Go do it, go try." And my first year, we finished 16th in the country. The first time we'd never been on the top 10, or no, I think it was, well, 16th. Second year, we finished 33rd in the country.
right.
I'm going, "Oh my God, I'm going the wrong way." But
Right,
being a rather inconspicuous sport, they didn't really pay too much
right.
attention. And then my third year were 9 wins and 12
I
losses.
saw that in here, right here. Nine
I
wins,
go,
12 losses.
whoa.
Right,
But
and
we had a
then
really good recruiting class that year,
yeah,
1972, and a really good recruiting class. And freshmen could not play in the varsity in our conference then.
right.
Nationally, good. But so when we went to NCAA, instead of taking anyone in my varsity who played all year long, I took 4 freshmen. And we finished, I think it was ninth or something like that, finished in the top 10. So all of a sudden we're back in the top 10. And then from then on, we started to build and stay there.
You kind of struck gold in 73, I guess it was, 72,
That was the first year, but again, I mean, it's not easy in a
No,
business or anything. There's a million disappointments and a million. I can tell you in the book, or some of them just because they're so interesting. Recruiting stories that almost came about. We're in your business.
you
If you
get
don't
near
get the
misses
best,
you
you
talked
don't get the
about. You had a
best
lot of
engineers,
close
don't
opportunities
get the
that just
best
didn't develop.
engineers, best people for your business. You ain't got
Right.
to be the best, and you get a lot of misses along the way. And so we had a lot of close calls, but we couldn't quite get it done. Every time I about get something would happen. We finally got one, Paul Gherkin, and then he left after 1 year because no one else, the year before Roskin came, no one else was coming in. And so there I got shot down again. And then
Yeah.
Roskin came at the end and things started to pick up.
Well, we were talking about the gentleman, Jack, who asked you the original question, about how did you have such sustained winning champion? How did you sustain all those championships? How did you get those? How did those players come together? How did you get that consistent winning? You won consistently. After you got it, it was like this. You came in and then all of a sudden, boom, it started to rise. And then over a 28-year period, you had 17 national championships. I mean, you were so
Yeah.
into that, you and the teams, it just kept, it just kept going, right?
Well, I could never write a leadership book because I could never say, well, here are the five.
Right.
I'm just a dumbass. That frankly, just flying by the seat of his pants when he got the job and telling him, "Oh yeah, we can do this, we can do this." But little did I know, I was
But
cocky. I thought we could, but it wasn't that easy. And so, who am I to write? These are the 10 things that make you successful, or here are the
right.
5 keys to doing something. I couldn't do that. So I had to ask my players to help me out with it to see what they thought it was that the secret sauce that made it successful. And
Absolutely. And you get right into chapter one and fundamentals of leadership. There's some fundamentals there, and I mean, you've got VJ, is it Secon?
Saquon,
S-E-K?
yes, Dr. Saquon.
Yeah, in 2000.
Hmm.
I believe if I'd have went to Stanford and I'd been part of that alumni, I could have probably I could have had my attorney, my doctor, my orthopedic surgeon. I could have had about anything to keep me going, right, Dick? I mean, that network you build, right? So that's
Uh,
phenomenal. This is doctor, huh? So that's pretty cool.
well, yeah.
Well, here, I'm going to read this real quick, Dick, and just let you comment on it. In the best-selling management book, Good to Great, the author Jim Collins set up an extensive analysis of what leads certain companies to consistently outperform others in the marketplace. The most important was having a level five leader. Collins identifies the key characteristics of a level five leader as humility, will, ferocious resolve, and the tendency to give credit to others while assigning blame to themselves, taking accountability. Coach Gould embodies all these key characteristics. Now, that's not coming from you, that's coming from this player you had that in 2000, who's now a physician, which is pretty fascinating. I mean, there's hundreds of these in here.
Yeah.
So, I mean, whoever gets this book is going to have an array of insights coming from a team.
Yes,
It's not coming from Dick, it's coming from a team. It's the team,
well,
right?
I say
So,
I didn't know what was going on. So, excuse me, I got a lot of light coming in here. Turn this around a little bit, maybe what to do. That's a little better.
yeah.
Sun's going down outside.
Oh, you're good, man. You still look
California
good on
time.
your Dick. Yep. So,
Let me
Dick, I
let me
think those
down a little
fundamentals
bit.
of leadership are
Ah,
pretty phenomenal. Let you
excuse me,
get
just
that.
one second. See if
Don't
that
worry.
helps
I'm
a little
going to
bit.
close the shade.
There we go.
There you
Actually,
look. Yeah, there you go. I got you, man. It's just to me, chapter one, looking at the fundamentals, this kind of drove a lot of your success coming from the players. Looking at what they saw, what their thoughts were. When you reached out to 160, when you reached out to 200 of them, you had an 83%. And some of the players couldn't necessarily answer all the questions because it didn't fit into, when they were there or whatever.
yeah.
But just that fact that you got that type of feedback. And a lot of your players, Dick, let's just talk about some of their successes in life. I mean, you've got players, I mentioned, you've got a doctor here, right? I
Oh,
mean,
there are a lot of doctors.
a lot of doctors. Yeah, there you go. Great.
Actually, our director of sports medicine in our athletic department right now is a former player. Jeff Abrams was on our one of our last NCAA teams, a couple of teams. And
And Paul Goldstein,
KJ
is he still
Hippensteel,
there? Paul
KJ
Goldstein?
Hippensteel. Yeah,
Paul
Paul.
Goldstein? Okay.
I'm sorry.
Paul Goldstein, is it Goldstein? Paul
He's,
Goldstein?
yeah, he's not a doctor. He went into private business.
But he used to be he was there for a while. He wrote a couple things.
Oh yes, he was there. Yeah, all 4 years. Of
I got
course.
to see him play a few times. He came to the Lexington to open and play a
Yes.
couple times. Nice fella, man. Everybody loved him. Yeah, he was great personality.
And he's head coach now. He's doing a great job. So
Oh, is he the head coach now?
yes,
Okay. Where's he head coaching at?
at Stanford.
Oh, he is. Okay,
Yeah.
there you go. So,
So
I mean, you inspire. I mean, it's great to have that inspiration. He made those comments in the book. I mean, it's great to have a legacy to see, a former player leading the Cardinal out there on the tennis court. That's got to be exciting for you to be able to come
well,
full circle with that.
John Whitlinger, our first NCAA champion, and won the NCAAs in singles, doubles, and team. First one to ever do that was my associate coach, and then he became the first coach after me for 10 years. And when he retired, then Paul Goldstein wanted to give it a try, and he came in. He's been there 10 years now, also 11 years now. He's in 11th year now.
So the two coaches that followed you, which it's hard to follow a legend. I'm just going to be honest with you. I mean, at Kentucky, somebody had to follow Rupp, right? And we had Calipari over here. Now we've got Pope. The Pope's in. and he beat Duke over the weekend. So it was a beautiful weekend in Kentucky.
Oh, it's
Trust me.
yeah, of course.
But
I saw that.
and now I know Dennis Emery, he got replaced I think
Oh,
when he retired after 35
what
years,
what a great guy.
yeah,
Great
and
guy.
they're doing extremely well over there. But Dennis, it's a legacy. It's one of his former players is the coach over there right now.
Yeah.
Cedric Kaufman, who played,
Yes,
I
yes,
think
I
he ended up
remember him well.
playing he
Uh,
played in the second or third round of the French Open, and oh my goodness, he's playing a Southern California guy that had 14 Grand Slam titles. I know you know what I'm talking. Trying to get the name out there. My goodness. But anyway, he had match points, two of them, and didn't get them, and
oh
ended up
gosh. Oh
losing
my
it.
gosh.
Yes,
Yeah. No, he
unbelievable.
was good. I don't think we ever beat him. I don't think he was a
Oh,
great player.
yeah, Cedric is great, but he's doing really well with his connections right now with Canada, doing a lot of great things over here.
Beautiful.
But Dick, back to you, man, and the legendary program that you ran, and it's great to have coaches that have followed you. They're in this book. They've made a lot of insights, around things they've learned.
A lot of guys who stayed in tennis have been very successful. Bob Bryan is leading the Davis Cup captain, leading the
He's
United
Davis
States.
Cup captain right now, right?
Yeah, he's leading the United States against Australia on Thursday.
And Bob and Brian are
And
going into Hall of Fame. This
Bob and Mike, yeah, go to
Bob and
Hall of
Mike, I'm
Fame
sorry, coming up, right?
in August. Yeah,
Okay.
August this year will be.
So
And then Patrick McEnroe, of course, was head of player development. Nick Saviano was head of coaches before that. And Martin Blackman has just retired as head of player development. So a lot of my guys have gone on and stayed in tennis, done really, really well nationally and with academies and so on. But announcers have been doing really well. Very, very
John
proud of them.
McEnroe announcing him. He's all over the world with that announcement. I love listening to him. He's a pretty straight shooter, man. He was a straight player. He's a straight shooter in the
He's
announcement booth. I love it.
absolutely, certainly is.
Yeah,
He's a
you
great
get a great
guy.
flavor from him. And he wrote the forward in this book.
He did. I was so thankful for that.
Yeah, that was really cool. Dick, when you look at the fundamentals here, personal responsibility, say, give us a couple things on that. I know you've got the player right here, John Corsi, 82. He made
John Corson.
yeah, talked about, we just watched in awe each day how coach worked to transform Stanford tennis in that tiny wood shack. Now, we got a kick out of this. We talked about this earlier. It was nothing more than a woodshed, but with Dick Gould inside, it was like a temple of college tennis. You walked inside the place, and his unbridled enthusiasm and infectious. He was infectious. You just knew that being around this guy was going to be worth the ride. And oh, what a great ride it was. Many of us went on to careers outside of tennis and business, law, medicine, real estate, public services, and much of that success is undoubtedly due to what we witnessed. I mean,
But
that's got to make your heart skip. I
John
mean,
was a great team player. He was a national champion, I think 16 maybe, from Georgia, and got him out of Georgia and came to Stanford. And unfortunately, passed a couple of years ago. But he was an attorney and doing really, really well, and a wonderful person, just the kind of person that you need on a team. It's a great team. Was all important to him ahead of any individual thing that anyone could do.
and that's the magic, I think, Dick. You got to have great players and you need individuals, but at the same time, it's that molding of the team mindset, right? Getting everybody to play for each
Yeah,
other.
and you know what? Yeah, and I think in anything, Ty, your business, my business, any business, you the people who are successful are those who have a belief in themselves and in what they're doing.
Right.
Uh, and 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 with that, everyone has some kind of an ego,
Oh,
a
gosh.
sense
Yeah.
of self-worth, but
Yeah.
that can destroy a team if it's not used right or directed
Exactly.
right.
That's why when you're trying to find an assistant coach or you're trying to find someone in your program to help, bring people together and, work through these things. I think an ego can kill a lot of things if it's not, managed
Yeah,
appropriately.
right,
Everyone needs to
exactly.
have confidence and but I think doing it with integrity. And I think that's one of the amazing things that Dennis Emery told me about you and your teams. When he played you, he always left, even though you might have kicked his butt. He always felt like, well, they're good people. You know what I'm saying? I mean, be honest. I mean, he's told me personally. He said, we competed with them pretty good. We'd go up
Yeah,
there.
they did. They
Maybe you
did.
got,
Yeah.
but and he had some unbelievable talent. And Dennis was a real stickler on doing it the right way as well. And but he always told me, we knew we were going to be in for a battle, and but I always enjoyed the competition with them. Those they were first class players and first
Well,
class coach.
I think that's one thing that I think that you do. You lead by example. I
Right,
mean, everyone can make a list of things up, but if you're the leader and you're not doing it yourself, it doesn't mean anything.
right,
And whether or not you want to do it, you mean to do it, you lead by example as a parent,
yeah,
most effectively as a business unit, whatever it might be. And I think especially in terms of ethics and competition and doing things the right way, the coach sets the mold on that. And I was really proud of my guys because I think we really could value actually the teams we enjoyed playing the most, and I mean enjoyed, were those that were the best teams. And that was because it provided a great challenge, but I also mean that we could get off the court and we could have a great time with them as individuals. I had great respect for Glenn Bassett example. Glenn Bassett was a coach at UCLA, and
right.
we were neck and neck for a long time in terms of what we were able to do on the court. USC with Dick Leach, another boyhood friend of mine. Relationships I really cherished. And I think that as I respected them, and I think hope they respected us, the players picked up on that. And they found that you don't have to hate somebody to beat
Right.
them.
Right. You can still
And
do it with class and
of
dignity.
course,
And everyone's
of course.
working hard to try to get to gold and the fin to
It's a
the finish
damn
line,
game.
right?
Face it, it's a game. It's
It's
not
a
life.
game. Everybody's working to do great. I mean, sometimes you just can't take your head off. The guy hit some deep balls, hit the line, got some leg cords. You might go down. You played incredible, and
Exactly right.
you still got beat. We've all been there, and
Yep.
I can look back honestly in my background when I started coming from the projects and basketball player and picked up a tennis racket and went out there and I thought I can beat all these guys in these white shorts. They can't take me. They have more skill than I had. I was a great athlete. I felt like if we got in a boxing arena, I could take them down.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, when it come to basketball court, I'd take them. I could outrun them. I felt like I was a better athlete, but they'd hit a few million more balls than I had. And eventually I got a lot of them, as
Yeah.
time went on. It may have taken me 20 years, but I did knock a lot of them out. But my point is, Dick, it's giving credit to the effort people put into something. And you've got to put the work in, right? You got to put the work in, right?
Well, you have to respect, yeah, and you have to respect other people, what they do as well.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. That's a big lesson in the book, the core values. You got it right here: class, humility, respect, integrity. This is coming from Paul Goldstein, we talked about. He's the current Stanford coach. You did mention that. We exhibited the ultimate example of the proper spirit of competition. We worked hard, played hard, and played competitively, but did so with class and integrity. We competed in a manner that earned the respect of our teammates and our opponents. And that's what you just said.
I hope so, above all.
Yeah. And we saw that in Paul when he played up here in the, in the Lexington Challenger. I mean, he was first class. People love watching the guy play. I mean, he was a silent assassin. He could hit them winners, not even smile hardly. Just kind of, he knew, confidence is a big thing when you put the work in, right?
It surely is.
Yeah. And another thing here, Dick, is the outlook and enthusiasm, the positivity, right? And this is coming from another player, Chico Hagee, 75.
Yeah. NCAA finalist, singles.
All-American World Singles. He got in the top 72, and he was NCAA, you say finalist?
Finalist, yes.
Yeah, incredible. The number one factor in our success was coach's contagious optimism. It lifted everyone's play. I imagine I'm not alone among the former players in trying to retain and apply the outlook to my non-tennis activities. Certainly, in my case, his confidence helped me indefinitely, more than any comments he made about mechanics or court tactics. The impact, believing in people, having confidence in people. There's accountability, but at the same time, they if they know you're in it with them,
yes,
they tend to not. I think it takes some of the pressure off of them.
Oh, no question about it. I think you have to show, can you imagine working with someone who comes in the office with a scowl every morning?
Right. It's just, why
Boss,
put that effort in to be
he
negative?
doesn't say hello. A smile is pretty powerful. A smile, one smile spreads so much sunshine around that room just walking in. The boss ought to walk in, he'd be standing up, he or she should be standing tall, walking with a quickness, uh, smiling at people, saying hello as they walk in every morning, going out of the way to ask how the day went or how the evening went. That makes you feel valued, makes you feel like you're more than a number. And certainly as an athlete, more as an individual.
Absolutely. You
And
know,
you do care, and you have to show that. You do that by
absolutely
example.
care about your people. I mean, and you're with them when they're up, when they're down, and all around, and
And
you build consistency. And I think enthusiasm and optimism is contagious, and you can be honest with people when you tell them the truth too, because
well,
they
you
know
have
you're.
to. Yes,
Yeah,
you have. That's the other side of it. You can't just
yeah.
BS them. They'll see through you in a second, but you can always find a reason to say something good about
And
someone.
I always tell my people, and it works in business every day, is my intent is this for you. It's not about me. It's not about, it's the intent to help you reach your potential. My intent is to give you everything I have to support you, help you. I just need your commitment, and I need you, to to be accountable and grow a little bit every day. You got 365 days in the year.
Yeah.
You get just a little bit better each day,
I want to come work for you.
just a little bit better each day. Why go backwards every day? Let's kind of go forward and get a little better every day, Dick. And that comes out of this book. And this is what leadership is really all about, coming from the players that were under your tutelage. It's just I love it because I love motivation. I love I'm on this podcast with you to learn, and to help others grow. This is growth mindset of a champion, Dick. And the things we're talking about tonight can help anyone out there in business
Yeah.
take that next step in their career. It could help a new coach, a new manager, someone who's wanting to engage and get more participation, of the people in their arenas that they're working with on a daily basis. It could really help.
I was a little surprised in this thing. I kind of was looking for a secret sauce,
Mhm.
and I thought that 30 guys would come back with one thing, something like that. But there were a lot of mentions as the most important thing or the most influential thing or the secret sauce was. And they were almost all different.
Yeah.
Different
Meant
things
something
meant
different to
something
different
different to
people.
different people. But
Yeah.
all these things add up and it's pretty powerful.
I think what come out of this book to me, just going through it, is everybody's watching. I mean, you don't know. It's a magnifying glass on the leader, because
Yeah.
you realize just the way you show up, the tone of your voice, the way you carry yourself. I mean, and you can kind of look back at your results. That kind of gives you an idea of how well you've been able to inspire, motivate, lift, and keep enthusiasm within your team.
I hope I grew as a leader or as a coach as my players
Yeah.
grew. I felt that I did. I think I learned something most every day.
Yeah.
I think the key, and sometimes we forget this as leaders, the key is to listen, and I mean really listen.
Oh, yeah.
And you listen with your ears, you listen with your eyes,
Yeah.
you pick up the tempo or the feelings of the group,
Yeah.
and you act accordingly.
Yeah.
You sit down and you say, "Hey guys, how can we do this better? Are we doing this best we can do it?
Absolutely. I've
How
had
can
to
we do
take
it
a couple
better?"
of steps back sometimes,
Or
when I'm having
exactly.
conversations, guys, today I'm gonna be in deep listen mode. You guys
Yep.
just kind of lay it out there. Give me your insights. What can we do to move up? It's not, hey, this is what I think we need to do all the time. It's, hey,
No, that's
you guys
exactly
are out
right.
there running this race. I want to be able to support you, but what are your thoughts on, a couple areas that we could get better at?
And
How
that's
would
a
you approach
powerful,
it?
that's
Yeah.
pretty powerful approach, I think.
And work ethic, that's the next one with David Wheat. Hidden beneath coaches' congeniality resides a combustible mix of ambition and work ethic. How could there not be? No one coaches to 17 national championships without an extinguishable fire within. Inextinguishable fire within. Resting on laurels isn't part of his DNA. In his calculus, there's more to achieve, more to do, more often. And you heard me say, get a little better every day, 360, but I know you probably, that's a lot of things. What's in between your eyeballs here, between, in this brain matter, right? Growth mindset of a champion. We're talking about it right now. You can get a little better, right, Coach? I
Yeah.
mean, and he picked up on that, right? I mean,
Yeah. Well, I think they all did it for a while.
yeah,
You put you put too much pressure on your team
yeah,
in athletics, especially in individual sport, but in any business, in
yeah,
any endeavor, if you're always talking about being the best.
right.
And I think it's much more productive and takes a lot of pressure off if you just talk about getting a little better.
Yes,
And I talked when I first came in. I told my team, I sat them down, and they were not anywhere near the level of player we had now, in fairness. But I said, our goal is to win the national championship. And one of my guys looked at me and said, "You're crazy, coach. We just want to get a suntan and enjoy some time away from the classroom and the
right.
library and have a good time out here." And and that's what their goal was. And for me to say to win a national championship was not totally unrelatable. So right away, I had to be very careful, and I learned to not put pressure of having to win on a team. I became a much better coach when we finally won a championship, because then the monkey was off my back to prove to me selfishly that it could be done. And I became
Coach, how did
a
you
better
take
coach.
these players coming in that were already good? A lot of them were. I mean, they could still grow, like you saying, get
Well,
a little bit
they
better.
were really good.
Yeah, they were really good. So when you look, but you could take even the basic tennis player. I know not at the level they were, but the fact that when you walk out on the court, it's basic. If your forehand is not as good as their forehand, if their backhand is better than your backhand, if their volley is better than your volley, if they have a serve, they're hitting it 20, 30 miles an hour faster on their first serve and they're getting it in. And they got a great return to serve and they very rarely miss it. In warm up and the first 10 minutes you're in competition with them, I'm in trouble. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
well then,
So,
yeah. So
I
then,
mean,
then
even at that level, those guys, like the number 8 player versus the number 2 player, it's
sure.
almost like a pecking order. But you can tell those guys that are 7 or 8 that are going to get better, that don't accept it, they're going to put the work in. And there's a way to inspire and motivate by challenge ladder matches and things like that. That always
Yeah,
fired me up. If
we
I
did
got to,
that. We
if I
did
got to
that
play better
differently.
players, I want to see them get wet. I want to see them get a bruise on them. I want to hurt them a little bit just so they knew I was with them. Does that make sense? I mean,
Yeah, it
let's
does.
compete a
I
little
think
bit. You know what I'm saying?
I would take someone who's definitely not as good as the person he's playing, and
Right.
I would just say, make each point last a little longer.
Right.
Take a little more time between points. Take a little more time in the changeover.
That's good.
Let's just see how long you can stay out here,
Yeah, that's beautiful. And
and not
yeah,
worry about this guy's forehand or backhand so much. Just make everything last a little bit longer and see how long you stay. And a lot of times, that's all you need to do.
Coach, that is so brilliant because I would go to the club when I was coming up playing as an athlete,
Yeah.
and I'd get beat up with some of these guys. And I said, okay, I'm going to be in the best shape of any of them, right? So I got in phenomenal condition. So they didn't really want to play on the clay anyway when they saw you coming. It was going to be bring your lunch pail. It's going to be 3 or 4 hours, right?
I
So
love it.
at that level, though, those guys hit so much pace and power and control, they could end the match quicker, right? But the point is that to your point, it's a running sport, right? You got to be able to move. You got to be able to hit the ball on the move. You got to be able to, create angles and do a lot of different things. It's just so fun to have this conversation with you because you saw all that for so many years and you were able to get this type of feedback in this book on what they got from it and how they got better, how they challenged, through the system, how they grew, right?
Well, I
And,
think, the biggest thing is what was important to them in this process. What was it that
yeah,
helped them do that? And that's what I was intrigued by. It was a great read for me, their comments,
well,
just
it
to
was
see what
probably
it was that
eye-opening for
was
you to
important
read
to
the
them.
comments, right? Because you had
Yeah,
never gotten these comments back before on
no,
anything
no.
that you'd done. So it's so fascinating to me,
I usually got a lot of comments back. Not a
Oh,
lot. I learned I have pretty good thing, I have pretty tough skin, but I learned a
well,
lot
when
from
you're
them.
dealing with competitors like that, it's not going to be all roses all the time, right? And
Oh, no, of
champagne. I
course
mean, there's
not.
going to be some challenges in there too, right? So
Of
that is.
course.
Hey, Coach, man, I've said we're going to go 30 minutes. We've already went 40. We've went 50 already. So,
Oh
this
my
book,
gosh.
when we look at this, Coach, we could go through this thing and hit it and nail every chapter. Hold your book up. You got the latest version. So I've got
That's
the first one I've got, Coach, is got a lot of the same stuff, right? Only that one has been revised and,
what,
and
it is. It's if you read the two weeks apart, you couldn't tell the difference.
okay,
But
that's what I was hoping. So
yeah,
good.
no, same book. It's just there's some grammatical things in there that I didn't catch,
Right.
the editors didn't catch.
Okay.
There were a couple things that were printed without any space. Two sentences are in there with no space between the words. Two
Right.
sentences. Example. Look, I changed the flow, relocated a couple of things, but you'd never notice. It's the same exact book otherwise. And
Awesome.
it's on Amazon. It's easy. You
Yeah.
can get a Kindle for $9.99. You can get it on
Okay.
a soft cover for what is 19.95 or something. Now we have a hard copy out. That's about $29, I think, something like
Okay.
that. They're all on Amazon, so it's easy to get.
Hey, I got my marker out. I'm already marking
There
pages
you
for me to
go.
use it and all that. I mean, it's inspired me so much to get this book in my hands, and I know you autographed this one for me, so I made it really special. And
Yeah.
for me to be able to use this in my business at AstraZeneca Pharmaceuticals, we're a global company. We've got 50,000 plus employees. I mean, there's such opportunity for growth from this book. And then when I look at all the other companies out there where you've got talented people that always are wanting to get better. Well, you can learn from past champions, people that have put the work in, people that have risen to the occasion. And there's just so much opportunity to grow. And this is podcast is growth mindset of a champion. And we're
Yeah.
all wanting to get a little better. Dick Gould's not
Yeah.
done yet. He's still trying to get better.
I'm
He's
still
out
trying.
here doing these books and he's
My,
doing
my wife's
seminars.
pushed me hard to get a little better.
Hey, you know what? You're going to be doing seminars and you're going to have more calls and you've got you can do this stuff online now, so you can pick your
Yeah.
time and everything. So it's awesome. But Dick, it's been a
Well,
real
this is
pleasure.
maybe it might be a nice Christmas gift for
It
somebody.
would be an incredible
A
Christmas gift.
business association.
Mhm.
I have people who've bought the books for their kids' coaches.
Yep.
Uh, for the kids, for themselves, for their business associates, for their friends. That's a good Christmas gift for the
Well, it would
summer.
be great to be able to start 2025 off with some incredible insight that's going to help you get better in business and life and have a real foundation, right? That when you take each day, and you and I said, you get a little better every day.
Yeah,
And it might be the difference in that interview you have for that position you're going for.
absolutely.
And coach, it's about organization and preparation. That was in your book. And if you're not putting in the prep, if you wait till the job's open, it might be too late. You need the connections that out there, right?
Yeah, and I just
Staying in contact with people just because you care, right? That's
exactly
important.
right. And I'm in
And
contact with all my players still.
yeah.
So
Coach, we met 4 years. We met, we talked online some, and then we talked, and we did an anchor podcast in
yeah, I
2020.
enjoyed that.
Who would have thought? Here we are in 2024, and you've got.
But the book, I didn't thought of a book
Well,
that
you
time.
were told me back then you were putting it together, and I thought, well, Coach, when you get this thing done, now here you already got two of them. So here we go, right? And you probably had another book in the past too, right? I mean, have you had other books
I have
or?
one in mid-60s. I wrote it. It's just a
Okay,
little how to do it book. And
that's cool though. Yeah, it's always
yeah,
good.
this is May. Well, the tennis boom was coming on, right time.
Right,
It had
right.
6 editions, 3 languages, over 500,000 copies.
There you go. I mean,
That was pretty good.
you tiptoe, got your feet wet early there, and then you went on and took out so many championships as that thing was going on, right? That's pretty cool. Hey, Coach, it's an honor. I'm on, 55 minutes. I appreciate you so much. And
Well,
I'm going
Tyler,
to, what's that?
thanks for all you do, the inspiration you give me. And
I appreciate you.
I just little by little, we all can get a little better, and
Just a
we'll
little
keep.
better, man. Hey, coaches, we're ending the podcast. Always hit a couple things. Growth mindset of a champion. Um, what touched your heart when this book was completed? How did you feel? Did you feel some growth, or did you take this book from what the feedback you got from your players? and you're helping so many people out there who get the book and read the book and apply the book, right? But
Yeah.
what did you get personally when you got it completed finally on this journey of getting this book completed?
Well, I think mostly the comments from people who read it. I've been really, really pleased. And the second edition has new comments in that people offered since it's been
Okay.
out. And I had the dean, a former dean, 10-year dean of the business school at Stanford, write me or heard me speak on the book just when the second edition came out. And he said, or just before it came out, he said, "This is there's 60,000 books on leadership." And he
Wow.
said, "But this one is just different enough and just approaches enough. It's very effective, and I'm going to use it in some of my classes." He's still teaching some. And so he has a second endorsement there next to Condi Rice, who is a good friend of mine here at Stanford.
You
It
know,
was,
I think leaders out there could get feedback from their employees and former employees on what,
yeah,
because this feedback could come back and it, hopefully you're going to get a lot of positivity, but you know, you might get some feedback that might, help you be a better coach,
oh yeah, no,
if you get feedback early in your career, right? I mean,
I think it's a great book for a young coach
yeah,
starting out. Really a good book. Just
absolutely agree. Coach Dick
and it,
Gould, thank you so much. And I really appreciate you being on tonight. And it's great that you were able to get the feedback and share it with everyone out here in business. I'm going to throw tennis in just because there's so many tennis coaches that could learn from this too. But you know what? At the end of the day, Fortune 100 companies all over the planet can have a motivated and inspired teams that can actually drive better results and drive a bigger bottom line for the company at the end of the day if they get this book. I'm telling you. And I want to highly recommend Anatomy of a Champion, Building and Sustaining Success in Sport, Business, and Life, as shared by 166 CEOs, entrepreneurs, coaches, and world champions. Dick, thanks for being on, and it's been a real pleasure.
what a pleasure for me, and I really, really enjoyed this, and I wish you the best in all you do. Your podcasts are always great, and I'm just honored to be a part of it, small part.
Thank you, my friend. Take care of yourself, all right? Talk to you soon.
You got it.
Okay, so I think I just muted. I think we're good. Let me double check it though. I'm gonna hit okay. I apologize.
Oh, no, no problem.